Welcome here to this Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora special from inside of the Cafe Cubal studios. I am joined on screen by a bunch of Syracuse love. We have Rex Trobridge, Roosevelt Bouie Jr., Sonny Spera, Dale Shackleford, Brandon Reese, as well as Jimmy Lee, Gene Waldron, and Dennis DuVal here with me this morning on Wake Up Call. Gentlemen, welcome to the broadcast. How's everybody doing?
Fantastic.
We're doing great.
Fantastic.
Super. So I'm gonna do my best to round robin here, but we all know that, and from social media, I know that you guys have seen this and whatnot. There's negativity that we see with when it comes to Syracuse athletics.
No, no, I haven't seen it.
And so today's show is meant to be on the positive side and show the importance of this Syracuse family. So, Sonny, I'm going to start with you because you and Gene did something cool, and I know some other people have kind of jumped onto it and whatnot. So, Sonny, you're very outspoken when you feel that people are being unfair to Syracuse, and I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
Well, it's crazy. I mean, the most criticism comes from your quote best fans. Like, you know, it's like not outside, it's inside. I could see it if Georgetown was bashing us or St. John's or, you know, Duke or Carolina, but it's our fans and it's relentless. It's kind of always been, but you know, it's never been at this level. I think people have no boundaries. Like they'll say and do anything. And the fact that they'll go after 18, 19, 21-year-old kids, like with a vengeance, like with a real serious anger, there's some issues, man. That's issues.
Gene, you put out a picture that you joined the transfer portal and decided to return to Syracuse. Tell me about that.
I loved it.
Well, I was actually just sitting down and I looked across the room and I saw Syracuse 33 jersey sitting on a chair, and I was like, let me put this on, and I put it on, and my wife was like, I got an idea. Say that you're going for the transfer protocol. I was like, that's a great idea. So me and being silly, I thought, right, this is a good thing to try. And I did it. And then Sonny jumped on and it actually blew up. But, you know, it was just to have some fun, give the people of Syracuse something to smile about and laugh about, especially with the things going on with people leaving.
Did you get any hits, Gene?
Huh?
Did you get any hits?
Oh, I got a lot of hits. People saying, keep telling me to stay in shape. I might have to come back.
Yeah,
I told them I ain't gonna pass the ball though.
we had Rex, we had Shaq, we had a few other guys ready to come back.
The buffet is closed, Gene. There's no comeback for you.
That's for sure.
My goodness. All right, we're gonna Erich Santifer join us as well. Erich, what are your thoughts on things right now, and obviously having some positivity go towards Syracuse and navigate through this tough time that some of the transfer portal has created?
Well, first off, thank you for having me, and God blessing my alumnus and all the people that are with us today, all being a part of the Orange family and part of my life. There's no disputing and arguing the success of the program, the success of Coach Boeheim. There's just no disputing that. You know, even when you talk about some of the victories that have been void, you know, he's still top 5, top 6 in terms of wins in the country. And you know, the current visibility and who we all are as alumnus is really a tribute to Coach Boeheim and the consistency and continuity and the talent level that has come through Syracuse in his 45 years. You know, let alone prior to that. I was thinking earlier about, you know, when was I or when we were all introduced to Syracuse basketball. My initial thought was I never heard about Syracuse basketball until Brendan Malone started recruiting me in probably the spring of 1979. I had no awareness, but then I thought about it. Growing up in Detroit or in the Ann Arbor area, and with Dave, the great Dave being being the star of the Detroit Pistons. I can remember watching him on UHF, the KBD, and from Syracuse, Dave Bing. And at that time, growing up, it meant nothing to me. I wasn't aware of Eastern basketball, and so the legacy that I know only deserves the ultimate respect, and the respect really goes to the quality of young men. And I can only speak directly to those that I have had and interacted with, but it goes to the quality of young men that have come through the program.
Dennis, you just had a birthday here recently, so happy birthday to you.
Yeah, I'm probably the oldest guy on the call. I'm still here. I'm still here. That's all that counts. But tell Jim that them dogs. That's his dogs over there. That's Gene's dogs barking at all of us. But my position has always been that the history of Syracuse Orange and the family that we all become are a direct reflection of the program, people that they sought to bring into the program. And Boeheim, and it has a lot to do with that, whether he was assistant, like when Jimmy and I were there, or whether he was the head coach. And a lot has to do with the fact that, our program has a lot of history. And whether someone stays or whether someone leaves, at some point in time, they were part of that. Now, everybody's situation is different. And these people that Sonny's referring to, these fans, they got to get a life, man. There's a lot of reasons why kids leave. Some for personal reasons. They don't know the reasons why the kids choose to go somewhere else. And, you have to give them that freedom. You look at how many kids go to college and don't stay the first year, and they transfer out and go to another school. I mean, there's so many damn reasons why, that could affect these kids and why they feel like they need to go somewhere else. Doesn't mean that there's something wrong with the program. It doesn't mean that, that someone has done something wrong. And they just, a lot of it's, a lot of the fan issues, it's about them. It's a little bit selfish at times. You have to understand, like Sonny said, these are 18, 19-year-old kids, and they're making choices. They're making life choices that they honestly think is the right choice. People need to look back when they were 18 and 19. Did they make every great choice? No. Whether it's good or not is up to them. We're not to judge that, and neither should the fans be to judge it. You know what? Support the program. Support the players that are there. Keep being great fans, but don't judge these kids. There's over 1,000 kids in this sport right now. You know what? Why should Syracuse be any different? Why, it affects all of us.
Right.
You know what? You got to accept it, and you got to move on. And this is life in college basketball right now, and it's looking right at us. And you know what? It is what it is, man.
Brandon, you played on the team more recently. What can you speak to the narrative that there is no loyalty in more current basketball, since a lot of people like to speak for the current players?
I mean, I remember I was testing the waters myself. I came in as a recruited walk-on. I got a scholarship, but you're 19, 20 years old. You want more playing time. You think you know better. You want to get into a higher position up, but you're playing against top guards in the country. You're playing against really high caliber players. And, this was not at the point where we're at now, where it's just, the accessibility to move and travel between team to team, player to player. There's a lot more of, individual prowess for the player themselves. They have a lot more ownership of where they can go, what they can do. So it's not just new for the players, it's new for the fan base. It's new for the coaching staffs everywhere. But, to speak of my own example, it came down to, I'm a kid from South Florida. I still didn't know much about Syracuse besides that 2003 championship. But once I got here, I knew the opportunity I got, the respect I got, earning a scholarship, by my second year, and just continuously having the respect of the coaching staff to really give my input in practice from what I did with the scout teams and the practice teams every day. I really took it on as a prestige that, I'm getting this at this program, that once you're there, this is a top 5 program. So I think it's tough again for these kids, 18 to 22 years old, to zoom out and see a bigger perspective of like, oh, wow, the place you're at, what you're doing. but you know, like what a lot of these guys attested to before, you know, they kind of got to make up their minds themselves and find out what's best for them, because, you know, a lot of kids in the basketball programs don't come from the greatest backgrounds. Find a way to be the most financially stable and situated, especially when their value and where they can make the most money may not be in professional sports, but
Brandon, sorry, go ahead. Had you muted there for a second.
yeah. Yeah, just going off of you know, these kids trying to find out what the best choice and decision they can make at the time. And, you know, they're the most valuable for their data, for, you know, the value they can bring to society at that age. So trying to find out where they are and figuring themselves out is a whole different ballgame. So I'm glad they can move much more freely. And yeah, we just got to get the fan base on board with the education that these kids are coming from different backgrounds. They got to understand that they need to do what's best for them too at the end.
Rosie, you got a big old smile right now. What are your thoughts on this current world of, you know, this team? I think people forgot they just advanced to the Sweet 16. And granted, I put them there in the bracket. I thought they would get to Houston and lose to Houston, which they did. But this is a team that just made it to the nation's final 16. And not even a week later, fans are ready to jump off a cliff. What do you think?
I have a theory. My theory is that, first of all, thank you, gentlemen. Good to see you all, part of the family. My theory is this. I've always, the toughest thing, I made a note, the toughest thing for me as a college athlete, the toughest thing was I had to understand that what was written about me in the media, they're not my friends. It's media. That's their job to write about what's going on. And the other thing you got to understand that the most important thing about what's going on is what happens between myself, the coaches, and my teammates. So I had to focus on not looking on outside what happened, but focus on what we needed to do, but make sure that we were all good with one another. We all got along well together. And as far as that goes, we're still friends. I'm friends with all of them to this day. And it's to keep everybody on the outside, wondering. People on the inside know what's going on.
Your thoughts here is Gene's dogs have a lot of thoughts today, but your thoughts.
Yeah, my wife had to go out of town, so they keep thinking she's coming back, but she ain't coming back.
Your dogs are driving my dogs crazy right now.
So, Jimmy, what are your thoughts on what's been going on? I mean, this is an interesting world we live in, and in a social media world, which obviously wasn't there when you were playing, didn't have to worry about the fact that all of these opinions can follow you outside of the dome, but it is an everyday thing that people are talking about the transfer portal, talking about wins and losses, talking about Jim Boeheim should play man-to-man. We hear these things all day long, every day. If you're in Syracuse, this is a 365 thing.
I know, as we all know, there's more problems in this world than kids switch to schools. We all know that. And, like with Rex, Dennis, myself, we never really had to worry about social media, thank God. I mean, I feel bad for these kids. They can't do anything. I mean, everything is recorded. But if the kids want to leave, they want to leave. And like Dennis stated earlier, nobody knows their situation. And we all know that fans think they know what they're talking about, but you know, they're good at what they do, cheer, but they don't know the inner sanctums like Rosie was just talking about. And I'm sure it was the same with Rex, but I know with Dennis and I and the guys we played with, we had 15 guys and we were all like best friends. I mean, we did everything together. And I think that's why our teams, without having many big guys, I mean, not you, Rex, because you were before us. but you know, like we won games that we shouldn't have, but because we were all friends, we got along together. We're still, you know, we still get along. And yeah, I'd hate to be those kids. I mean, these kids, they can't do anything by themselves. I mean, they're under the bubble from everything. And I mean, it's not like Syracuse is the only school that is in the transfer portal. They're all going. I had a friend of mine that told me that lives down in Carolina. He said that that's probably one of the underlying issues with that Roy Williams just said, you know, I've had enough. because I can't deal with this. I can't deal with pay to play. Can't deal with a lot of this stuff. And now whether that's true or not, but he said that's what the scuttlebutt is down there. So I think Carolina's having the same problems that probably every school in their own community is having the same things that you're seeing here. Just people want to voice their opinions. And I know Sonny's on Facebook all the time because I signed up for it a few years ago, but I don't know how to use it. So I don't follow any of that stuff. And when it's my birthday, my wife says, Jim, you should maybe check on it. She goes, what? He goes, well, there's a couple hundred people that wish you happy birthday. He goes, well, how do I get into it? What do I do? Thumbs up. So I check it once a year, and I'm way behind the times on that. And I wish I never signed up for it, but I do know that Sonny is like the ace on that, and Rex is not far behind.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel sorry for all these kids. I mean, because they can't do one single thing, and
Yeah.
I mean, back in our day, I mean, there wasn't we were lucky enough to be on TV once a year. You were on the ECAC game of the week. I don't know what it was with you, Rex, but I don't remember watching any games in Binghamton when you were playing. So I'm not sure if you got on, but
Yeah.
and we didn't have, you know, if you're lucky enough to get a hold of a paper, you could read about what they said, but I don't remember reading anything except for the Daily Orange when I was at school. So I don't know if people were getting on us. I don't know what they were saying. Not that I cared, but it's different, and I feel bad for the kids.
Dale, you and I have had a lot of conversations over the better part of almost a decade now. What can you say? And now, I mean, you're coaching again, and you're dealing with the youth of today. So what is the message to them, and how do you handle the fact that we live in a world right now where everyone has an opinion about how to coach every play, every official's call? I mean, officials used to be able to go home and be left alone, and you know, they would get booed for 2 hours. Now they get booed every second of the day. So, I mean, I've seen this from the official, the coaching, the player standpoint. What do you take from it?
Well, am I the last one on? Because I want to give you the opportunity to be able to mute my language here, because listen to these guys be mellow and mild and stuff. You know, I've got a lot of choice words for these fair weather fans. And, you know, my whole opinion is this. You know, when I was in school, if something was written bad about our team in newspapers, I didn't talk to the damn reporters after that. Either you're for the team or you're not for the team. But Tony Bruin said something the other day. These kids are recruited by these schools for a lot of different situations. The school atmosphere, the camaraderie with the players, the fans coming in the stands and watch the games, and they were not able to experience none of that this year. Because of COVID, all those things were shut down for all these kids. So they never got those experiences. They never got a real good college experience. And I don't know who's in their ears telling them that it's going to be better somewhere else, or the grass is greener on the other side. But everybody in the country went through the same thing. There's a lot of top teams in the country that lost players this year. Okay, Syracuse wasn't the only players. But there again, I'm playing on a team with the coach's son, and the coach doesn't yell at his son for doing something wrong, then I'm going to yell at his son. I'm not going to blame the kid for it. I'm not going to get mad at the coach for it. Some of these guys got to stand up and speak for themselves and not worry about what's going on with everybody else. If I'm competing with somebody in practice, I'm coming at you every day in practice, and I'm going to prove to the coach that I deserve to play. I'm not going to run and hide. I'm not going to avoid the competition. Now, I'm going through the same thing down here in Florida. These kids down here, they can go to a different high school every year. And we had 2 seniors out of the 15 kids on our team, and we start a open workout, and we've got 1 kid that shows up, and we hear that these other kids are practicing with other teams or working out with other teams. So this is the where you're letting these kids transfer with no penalties, wherever they want to go. If they're being subsidized one way or another, cash in their pocket, family getting houses, cars, or whatever, then, you know, so be it. But everybody's got to be on the same playing field. Coach Boeheim is doing the best he can with the coaching staff he's had. He's done great over the years. A lot of players have left over the years, and Syracuse has still done well. But me personally, to any of the fans out there, if you got an argument about Syracuse basketball team or Syracuse basketball players, be man enough, woman enough, or whatever, step to the face of the person or step to my face and let's talk about it. All this behind the back social media stuff is not getting anybody any good. It's just getting people pissed off. And fortunately, this is an afternoon show and I can't really say what I want to say, but please, if you want to criticize somebody, open your closet, see what you got hanging in your closet, and then you can criticize.
Fair words coming from Dale,
Great
the
stuff.
fair weather fans. I like that. Rex, what are your thoughts on everything that goes on in today's world of athletics that we all have to deal with and forget that these are kids. Not only are they kids, but, you know, I mean, I had a coach look me in the eye and say to me, and this a guy in his 40s, he said, my mother reads all the articles. And it just hit home with me so much that, I mean, like, I always felt like you don't talk about, you can constructively criticize, where like, I would say it about like Frank Howard. I would say, you know, I think Frank could do this and this better from what I'm seeing, but I respect this. And I wrote it in such a way where it was like, I really want him to be good and I want him to excel. And this is what I'm seeing. And then after the game, we would hug, talk, you know, and we respected each other, because there's a way to talk to someone where you want to see them do better versus just dragging somebody on the coals. So what do you think about everything, Rex?
Well, I have a whole lot of random thoughts. I'm probably furthest away time-wise from active participation in sports from any of you guys here. But once you've played at Syracuse, whether you've gotten a lot of splinters, as I often did, or whether you started and were a star, I think most of us bleed orange and have a loyalty to the school and to the program. And to the coach, who, by the way, was a classmate and teammate of mine. I remember Jimmy as a walk-on in 1962, and I am fascinated by the notion that here's a guy who came in and 50 and almost 60 years ago and just never left. But I think it's kind of a confluence of things. And as I look at a couple of my thoughts on the transfers, I guess the transfer portal, my thought was, do we have an unusually large number of transfers? If so, maybe the AD ought to take a look at that and find out, how do we compare to other schools, and is there something going on? Or is this just the new normal? This was a crazy year. The transfer portal, as I understand it, is a one-time deal and the one year of additional eligibility. So this is kind of a crazy year, and it's hard to judge from what happened here, except that they probably might want to look with curiosity, both for the men's and the women's program, which I understand has a whole lot of people in the transfer portal. Is this an unusually large number? And why are the kids looking at other opportunities? Kids, as someone said, want playing time. And if they're not getting the playing time and they think they ought to be getting it, well, they may well look for some of those other opportunities. Some of the acrimony that we've seen among the fans on the Facebook and so on, you know, Syracuse has, in a way, always been kind of a tough place to play. Tough in the sense that fans can be fickle. I think I have read that New York City is a tough place for professional athletes, because the fans, while they can be loyal, can also be very, very tough. And I think we often see in Syracuse a lot of that New York City influence in terms of how they support their team, and how if they don't agree with it. I mean, I can recall watching Chuck Richards, being one of my teammates that some of you may know, making a mistake on the court, running down the court and giving a universally known gesture to the fans who were booing him, because they could be a little bit tough in that respect. But you know, talking about young kids doing things for their own reasons, I remember when I was recruited, I was 17 years old, 17 when I started at school. And people say, well, why did you come to Syracuse? Because I was recruited by quite a number of other schools. And people, when I tell them the real story, they can't believe it, but it's true. I came up for my recruiting trip on a beautiful spring weekend after all of the nubile co-eds had been hidden in their winter vestments for the entire year, and they were just busting out all over. And here I am, a 17-year-old kid, looking at all of these co-eds on campus, and I thought, man, this is the place for me. People say, no, that's not really true. And I say, I'm sorry to tell you, that was probably the reason. So young kids make decisions for reasons that are not always good reasons, but they're going to do what they're going to do. And when they have the opportunities, I've also heard, and again, you guys are probably closer to it, AAU ball, grassroots basketball was nothing back in the 60s. I'm not even aware of it. I've read some books. Play Their Hearts Out was a book that I read a while ago, talking about some contemporary experiences with AAU. And a lot of people I have heard blame AAU for some of the problems and the travel team mentality, where kids don't practice, they don't learn skills, and they don't develop loyalty to a team. It's all about showcasing their own individual talent. And that culture, my impression is, can sort of find its way into other programs when you're dealing with kids, every one of whom thinks he should be a star and should start, and so on and so forth. But now kids have options that we didn't really have, 50 something years ago. And there was a different culture. We didn't switch from high school to high school. You played in a high school, you were coached there, maybe you went to camps and developed skills and so on. But it was, I think, kind of a different world back in the day. And then I hear kids today are different, that they're not coachable. Again, you guys are closer to it than I am. I don't know whether that's true, but it is kind of a different world. It is disheartening. And Sonny had a post, I think, on today on Facebook talking about the acrimonious. And it's not just Syracuse, it's other schools as well. I think Ohio State, after they lost, they had an incident, and Michigan had kids getting literally threatened after they lost. That's really disheartening. And someone had replied on the thread that these were probably people who had never played ball, who didn't understand that, you're going to make mistakes in sports. My challenge as a young athlete was getting my head out of my ass after I made a mistake. And I don't think anybody is aware of the mistake they make more so than the athlete who made it and feels worse about making it. So these people who want to start ripping into young kids who, drop the ball or throw a pass away or something like that, it's just unbelievable to me. And as it was pointed out, I really question whether any of them have played ball. So I don't know what the answer is in terms of, we're seeing the transfer portal having gotten quite a bit of notoriety, but it's I don't know what it means to Syracuse and whether we're any different than any other school. I suspect that we're not.
Yeah, and this transfer portal obviously is creating something different, especially with COVID giving a free year, in the ACC saying you could travel in conference now. These conferences saying that coaches can't necessarily tell you where to go. So Sonny, I want to go around the room with everybody here. Once again, here with Sonny Spera, Rex Trobridge, as well as Roosevelt Bouie Jr., Jimmy Lee, Brandon Reese, Dale Shackleford, Gene Waldron, Erich Santifer, Dennis DuVal, all here with us on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios to show, dare I say it, something positive on the internet. Sonny, you get to answer this question first of everybody in the room as we go back around the horn. Would you choose Syracuse again, and why?
17, 18-year-old, I'd choose it in a heartbeat. All the things that to me were important, came true. And I still would have probably had similar doubts when I was there. I still would have had some of the same, self questions. But yeah, I would have chosen it in a heartbeat. But I just want to say one thing. These kids should have the right to transfer. I don't, this shouldn't be something new. If a kid wants to transfer, they should transfer. The fact that we hold these kids to certain, limitations, I don't think that's fair. I think the kids should be able, coaches can leave. I think kids should leave. I'm sorry, but and whatever their reason is, like Dennis clearly stated, they have whatever reason they want. God bless them. Wish them well. That's all.
Dennis, you heard Sonny mention you here, and we're going to unmute you here so you can give your thought. But what is your take on it? And would you choose Syracuse again, and why?
Yeah, absolutely. I would choose it again, without a doubt. The fact that I had other factors why I came here. I mean, not just myself, but some other closeness to home. I had a half brother that went to Oswego State, so who was a year ahead of me. So, but the fact of the matter is, it was my choice, and you know what? Every day I'm living it still. You know, it's probably the best choice I made in life. But the fact of the matter is, like everyone else said, you know, coaches can leave and do whatever they want. You know, the student athlete is the most restricted person in America. You got to look at it that way. And every guy on this call right now is governed by the NCAA. There's nothing in America that controls people more than the NCAA. You think about that. Every one of us is still governed by the NCAA about what we can do and what we can't do. I don't know of any entity that controls people more than that, if you really think about it. There's certain rules we still have to follow. We're not student athletes anymore. We're former athletes, we're former alumni, but we're still controlled by that entity. Well, so as far as these kids are concerned and being able to leave, you know, it's too restrictive. It's too restrictive. The NCAA didn't have any problem with all the COVID and all the pandemic to have that tournament this year. They know what they missed from a dollar perspective last year, and they weren't going to miss it again. These kids are all part of, whether the first kid on the team or the last one sitting on the bench. They're all part of that. They all contribute to that. So I have some different economic reasons why, you know, I have some angst about, you know, why kids shouldn't be able to, you know, to leave. I think the best thing in the interest of our program is that when they do make that decision is to support them, not be against them, support them, wish them well. Just like any family, you know, we all don't get along. We all see things differently. And if we go a different path, that don't mean you don't support them. And I think the best thing the coach has done is be positive and wish them well. And we should be able to do the same, you know, and the fans should be able to grow up and do the same also. I mean, everything's not going to go your way. You don't get everything you want in life, and fans get, you know, a little bit over the top when you buy a ticket sometimes. You know, I'm a fan too of the program, but I still respect the kids that are 18 years old playing there, you know, for whatever reason, and choosing Syracuse.
That coming from Dennis DuVal. Gene, you and I got to speak very recently about a lot of different things. We were talking about Kadary and his future, and you know, being someone that comes from, you know, the borough area and respecting that, what Pearl did, what you've worked to do and everything. And we're going to bid adieu to Sonny. I know that he had to go this morning. We appreciate him being here with us. But to look at this, Gene, you know, we spoke so highly of Kadary, and this could be another coming of that, you know, that island basketball player, and just something that's different about, you know, the borough area. And now Kadary is going away. Would you choose Syracuse if you had the choice again, and why? And just maybe make a note on how quick the world changes with the transfer portal, when you and I were just speaking about Kadary right before the Houston game.
You know, when I was thinking about making my decision to come to Syracuse, I had to look at the situation. Who was playing in front of me? Where was I going to get my opportunity? And what was my education going to look like? And I was fortunate enough to have one person ahead of me, which was Eddie Moss, who was the great Eddie Moss, bless his heart, who was leaving. And I was able to come in and play right away. And even before that, learn from one of the greatest that ever played at Syracuse at the position of point. So it was really an easy decision for me. And then also, you know, you had to carry a dome. And I was going to be close from home, you know, and it wasn't all about Coach Boeheim. You know, for me, it was, you know, some of the assistant coaches who really showed a great interest in me, and the fact that they were going to stay on me about making sure I get to class, because that wasn't one of my strong points. So if I had to do it all over, yeah, I would definitely have picked Syracuse. And, you know, for me, you know, with this transfer thing, I'm not so big on it like some of the other people here because, you know, I believe in, let's fight for some minutes. Let's compete because the grass is not always greener on the other side, you know, and I'm always going to wish them well. But, you know, sometimes leaving just not always the answer. You know, when I was at Syracuse and Pearl was coming in, you know, that was going to be a problem for me. You know, but not once did I ever think about, well, I'm going to leave. I just decided, you know, I'm going to fight and we're going to become teammates and we're going to play together and we're going to get through it. You know, I wish the kids all over the country who are leaving, but sometimes the grass is not greener on the other side. And I'm sorry to say that, but that's a fact.
That coming from Gene Waldron. Mr. Lee, if you had the choice to choose Syracuse again, would you and why?
That's 4 years of my life so far. But I kind of was like Gene. I mean, I went up to a lot of games only because my brother Mike played. And who knows, if he would have went to a different school, I'm not so sure I would have went up and watched in those years. And I got to watch his team as a freshman, and I watched Dennis play as a freshman, and everybody there. But I went down, I took all kinds of notes to see, number one, is my goal was to I wanted to start as a sophomore. And I thought I had it all tabulated out the right way. I just didn't take into account that when Mark was a senior, they'd move him from forward to guard. Other than that, my plan would have worked. But Mark Waddick, I'm talking about, good friends. And the funny thing is, Mark always said, "Oh, I knew every game." He goes, "When I was a senior at the 8-minute mark, I was coming out no matter what, and you were going in." He goes, "Well, what's wrong with that?" But I would have, if Mike would have went somewhere different, basically I'm at Syracuse because my brother Mike. If he would have went somewhere else, I don't know if I ever would have stepped into Manley Fieldhouse because I would have, wherever he would have went, I probably would have went to watch him play. And who knows, but I'm here. Hey, it's 40 some years later, I'm still here. So I didn't leave. I'm not from here, but if anybody hasn't read the book that Rex mentioned, Playing Your Hearts Out, you got to read it. It's a great book. And but when you read it, you're going to think it's like, because when I read, I thought all of the stuff I thought about shoe companies and what they were doing was true. And when you read this, and a guy from Sports Illustrated, I believe, right, Rex?
I think he was, I believe.
Right, he wrote it, so he knew all the ins and outs and followed this team. But it began with following a sixth grader around. And the sixth grader, he was going to be the greatest thing in the world. The sixth grader quit growing though. And the funny thing is, I gave him the book to my brother Mike, and all of a sudden I called him after he had to go, "Mike, you know that guy?" He goes, "He either played at New Mexico or New Mexico State, and now here he's the biggest kid in the world at sixth grade. He was a backup guard. He quit growing like when he was in eighth grade." And so you never know what's going to happen with these kids. You start so young, but we didn't have to worry about that back in our era. But yes, I made a great decision to come to Syracuse, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Coming from Jimmy Lee, Mr. Santifer, if you had the choice to choose Syracuse again, would you do it and why?
Absolutely. For those that on your listening audience that don't know, I have an upcoming book, Everyday God, Promises Made, Promises Kept. And one of the themes throughout the book in my student athletic experience is that if I had to do it all over again, I would select Syracuse 10 times out of 10. And I want to keep this positive. This is despite my contentious relationship with Coach Jim Boeheim. I got a great deal of respect for him as my basketball coach, as I'm listening to everybody. And the important things about playing time, and I can only speak subjectively, objectively about my period of time. And there's two people that I really want to point out. And the first is my roommate and probably my closest mate during my student athletic career, Tony Bruin. Many of you will remember that Tony Bruin was a top 10 national recruit when we came into Syracuse, 1979, 80. Where was I? Someplace in the next 200 or 300. I played 30 minutes a game as a freshman. there was sometimes Tony didn't see the court. And through humility, diligence, and commitment to the program, he became one of the most recognized and greatest players in program history, and has a presence that's just unbelievable. My second example, in terms of when you talk about what the proto is, people going into there and transferring, and how invaluable in playing time is. Another one of my teammates for 2 of my 4 years was Dan Chase. Dan Chase had a great senior year. And I don't know if Roosevelt Bouie is still online with us. But what most people don't realize is Dan Shea's minutes were almost nothing for 3 years playing behind Roosevelt. And when I came in as a freshman, the goal was Dan's going to be the three. They're going to go large with Roosevelt, Louis, and Boo up front, and Dan. And it just athletically, it didn't work. I played more minutes in my first year and a half than Dan played in his career. But there's times and people that rank Dan's career ahead of mine. Again, I'm keeping this positive. My point is, both Red and Danny were committed to the program, whatever their reasons, geographically, loyalty to the program, to a coach, and they both became esteemed and recognized alumnus of the basketball program. Back to directly answering the question whether I would come back. My situation, and I mentioned it earlier, was I had never really heard or acknowledged Syracuse University until Brendan Malone started recruiting me. But then I had to realize, I heard, Dave being from Syracuse growing up. Syracuse was my third visit out of 6. And when I left Syracuse University on that Saturday or that Sunday morning, headed back home, my decision was made. I had 3 more visits. I was coming to Syracuse. I was going to play as much as I played, without a doubt. And again, as I write in my journey, I have never said to anybody that I wished I played anywhere else and for any other coach. And I have a pretty contentious relationship with Coach Boeheim. But I wish never since the day I set foot on that campus, and there was a point that I was going to transfer, but it wasn't about playing time or Boeheim directly. I've never said that I wanted to or I wish I'd played anywhere else and for any other coach. And I think that's significant. And the share that I just shared about Tony and Danny is the epiphany of patience, of commitment to a great program. And again, I love Tony. Tony was a top 10 recruit. He could have, after the first year, especially in this current culture, came in and said, "Oh, I'm not playing." And again, he didn't even start sophomore year until he was handed my position midway through the season. You got to remember, Mike Sheehy left because he couldn't get minutes. Not that he didn't, he couldn't get minutes. I'm just being honest with you. He couldn't get minutes. So, when you hear about cadre as people, and you hear the advocacy of some of the alumni saying, "Hey, you should hang in there," the merit, and for me, just subjectively, and the people that I played with, I can't comment on anybody else, but Dan and Tony prove that patience, commitment, and loyalty to the program. Again, I don't mean to say this sparingly. I played more minutes in a year and a half than Dan played his whole career. And there's rankings that have Dan Chase ranked as a better career student athletic basketball player than me. Go think it. Patience, diligence, And, just again, it was my third visit. I canceled the rest of my visits, and I have absolutely no regrets. And the one thing that I've heard thematically, what everybody has said, and the thing that is the essence of what's happening today is playing time. And fortunately, by God's grace and talent and what I brought to the table, I never had to worry about that. My experience in time as a student athlete or a basketball student out of Syracuse University, and I don't know if this is a comment to the recruiting, but my playing time at the 2-3 was never threatened until Raphael Addison walked in the door. And he competed and challenged me as an athlete more than anything else. But during my entire time, and I've heard people say, oh, it's about playing time. Let's be competitive. My entire playing time was never threatened at Syracuse University. And that's what it's about. Kids come from programs where they're the guy, they're the person, same with young ladies. And then you get into an ultra competitive situation where you want to play. Fortunately for me, the dream wasn't the next level. Again, I write about it in my journey. I wasn't talking about the NBA. So, that never impeded me. But playing time for what most young men think as the next portion of their journey, or people think of the next journey, playing time is in essence. Patience, unfortunately, is not a virtue. And as much as patience is a virtue, but boom, that's all I got to say.
For you, Rosie, would you do it all over again? Would you don the orange once again with the Louie and Bowie show rise if you could go back in time and have a second chance at it? Would you do it again?
Well, first of all, it was funny because I never visited university. I visited other schools. I went to Georgia Tech and I went to Duke. And after going to Georgia Tech and then I went to Duke and I saw the girls in bikinis on campus. And my mother said I had to graduate. So I was like, I'm going to Syracuse. If I go to Duke, I'll flunk out in 2 weeks. I don't need any distractions. But then I met Dale Shackleford at basketball camp, and he came through wearing a pair of green shorts and a pair of green fishing boots with 45 kids following him. And I just looked, I was like, wow, that dude, that's the Pied Piper right there. Then I came back home, and the easiest thing for me was I realized that I wanted to play close to home, and I was looking at St. Bonaventure's and Syracuse University. And only problem was Coach Boeheim wasn't the head coach, so I'm holding out. And then my coach comes up with a newspaper and says, Coach Boeheim, new head coach of Syracuse University. We walked right through school, called Coach Boeheim on Wednesday. On Thursday, he came to our school, and I came to a Kendall and I signed. Now, it was so funny because there was a game just maybe I think it was a year and a half ago. I was walking down the hill going towards the entrance to the Carrier Dome. It had to be 17 degrees. The wind was blowing about 15 degrees up the hill. And I remember thinking, who the heck would, and before I was gonna say who the heck would go here, and I started laughing. I said, I would, and I'd do it again. The weather made no difference to me. It was the people that I was around. So, yep, that's it. I would do it again. Wouldn't think about it. And this time it would be a decision that I made, not that the circumstances.
Rosie, I'm going to stick with you for a second because we've spoken so much about the positivity that you've had toward the program every single year, and just wishing them the best and trying to see a silver lining. And you and I have talked about a lot of the arguments that people have come up with, and you've responded to those. Just what you could say to the fact that, it's kind of like Boeheim and the team are always on a hill, and there's always somebody running up with pitchforks and knives and torches, and they've always got to defend it. Those guys go down the hill, and then he turns around and they're coming up the other side. Just what you could say about that, because it seems to be a normalcy now.
You know, it's kind of funny. Now, it's just so you're clear, the people that are always throwing, that are constantly throwing stones at the program and hiding behind the facade that they're fans, they're not fans. I'm not sure what they are. They're something, but there's something different. If you're a fan of the program, and I'm a fan of the program, so when I look at a game, I see positive things that happen. I see where they can improve, and never once in my mind do I think about throwing stones at a program that for all intents and purposes, everybody thinks they know so much because Coach Boeheim put that quality program in front of them. So it seems kind of funny to me that I'll say it again. I don't have anything negative to say about the program because I'm a fan of the program. I like to see what they do. I like to see them be successful. And if they're not successful, I like to try to think about what I can do to help out. But those that are always throwing stones at the program, I got a news flash for you. Don't call yourself a fan of the program. You're not a fan. You're just somebody there's a word. I don't know what the word is. I don't know if you're looking for notoriety or by being disrespectful to players or a program. But I can't see it. I can't even make myself do it because if you're looking for the best for a program, only positive things come out of your mouth. I just can't see it. If the negativity's coming out, I don't know where it's coming from, and not particularly interested. I'm not a big Facebook guy out there and talk about things on Facebook. I believe in the program. You look into the program.
Dale, you heard Rosie talk about your wardrobe choices when he saw you on campus, and that you had 45 people following you. So, I mean, Shaq, you and I are like family. So tell me about your entourage and tell me about your clothing choices. And would you have chosen Syracuse again, coming from Utica?
Well, first of all, I would definitely have chose Syracuse again. Reason being close to home, gave my mom especially and my brothers and sisters and friends an opportunity to come watch me play. Also, I was sold on Syracuse as a freshman in high school. I watched Dennis with Syracuse when they played in the NIT down in Madison Square Garden. And, I was sold on Syracuse then. But, my whole thing was that I had great coaching growing up as a kid. I was always taught, especially by my father, to give 100% effort and to.
Oh, Dale, we lost you for a sec. Hold on 1 second. Dale, hold on, let me see here. Dale, can you hear us? We lost you for a sec. Can you hear us, Dale?
I knew that, yeah, I'm here. Every day in practice, I knew that, there was guys that were waiting to, take my position or, just to get playing time. And we competed every day. And, as Erich said, you don't worry about your playing time, but, we worried about playing time every day. And as far as, my wardrobe and that, I dress for the occasion. If I had to entertain the kids at camp, that's what I did. If I'm going out to have a couple cocktails with the boys, I dress a little more casual. And when I'm going to play golf this afternoon, I have my shorts and a nice polo shirt on and a baseball hat. So, dressing is, something that, I enjoy doing, and I love all the different occasions. But, Syracuse, was my very, very best choice I could have ever made. I had a great 4 years at Syracuse. I had a great 50-something year life at Syracuse because even now, as everybody says, we're still one big family. And I'm glad that I've been able to, reconnect with Erich over social media, which, that part of social media has been great for me because I've connected with a lot of people that I haven't talked to or seen in years. So for me, social media is good. And if you don't listen to the other garbage on social media, you'll be okay.
Coming from Dale Shackleford, I know, Rosie, you got to hop out, so I appreciate you as always, and I'll talk with you soon. And Brandon, I want to go to you here. If you had another choice, if you could do it all over again, would you do it? Would you come to Syracuse? Would you take the chance? Oh, we got you. Hold on, Brandon. We got you. There you go. Can you hear us? Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I've never thought, when you look back after the 4 years going there, had no idea. I just saw a pamphlet that said there looked like a city somewhere with the dome. And I was like, oh, this place looks like there's a city. There's stuff to do. It's going to be great. And it's snowing by October. By the time I get there, I'm like, oh, shit. Like, this is going to be, what am I doing here? I'm walking up the hill by myself in the snow. And then, playing in front of 30,000 people, getting to play in the Garden, scoring, Madison Square Garden, your first trip there. I mean, you just can't beat experience like that. I mean, I just see myself in the reflection here glowing, and then in terms of the program, I mean, that gets to come with it. I mean, you can't beat that. I mean, I got to go up against, Dion Waiters, Michael Carter Williams. And, for me as a guy who wasn't getting much time, it was like, this is the time I do get. This is practice, every set, every rep to get better. And I mean, luckily I had a little bit of a zoomed out perspective to say, we all had a dream to play professionally, take it to that next level. What can I do here every day? I don't know if I transfer out, I'm going to have as great of an experience as I am here. I'm not going to have the Mike Hopkins, the Jerry McNamara's, Red Autry's in my ear at practice. I mean, just once you didn't know about those guys going to Syracuse, but you learn about their legacies when you're there, and you get to take all that in. And then, like everybody has talked about here with the connection with the program itself. I mean, Roosevelt helping me get overseas to play in different positions over there. I mean, guys I still talk to, coaches, alumni, guys I never played with, but that exists. And I think, the recurring theme that we all have a problem with is there is no culture, there is no community from the players down when they're in middle school and high school to the fans themselves, that there's this whole scarcity mindset, that there is no loyalty, there's nobody going one place or another, and that when someone leaves, they're not loyal. And if someone doesn't get what they want, maybe they didn't want to have a long-term future playing ball and they want to do something else, and that's where the program could do a better job. And that's where they could say, like, hey, listen, you're not going to make the majority of your money playing professional sports. You're not going to be doing that. Really advocating, some strong, grassroots systems to help a lot of players get to that direction, to the place they're going to go. And I think, if the fans understood that, because they don't get to see the ins and outs, how the sausage is made like we get to see it or get to experience it. But, if that was there, we'd all have a better thing, the knowledge and the understanding of where people are coming from, the players to the fans to, the problem we have with the system itself, giving these guys a better opportunity. So, definitely wouldn't make a different choice. Would definitely come here again. I had a rock star experience, and, and that's coming from a guy who only averaged 2 minutes, throughout my career. So you couldn't beat it. It still got me to get my dreams to play overseas. And to take me all around the world after that with basketball. So it was, we'd definitely do it again.
One final point for you gentlemen, and Erich touched on it already, so we'll go around the horn because Erich spoke about Coach Boeheim, so we'll talk about that with you guys in a sec. But Rex, I want to go with you very quickly here about, would you do it again if you had the choice?
I absolutely would. And perhaps I'm a little bit more like Brandon. I was a guy who probably got more splinters than accolades. Although when I was recruited, Coach Fred Lewis, part of his pitch was, you're going to be the crown jewel. And we got this skinny kid from Washington, D.C. who's going to help you. Turned out to be Dave Bing. And in later years, I said, Dave, I was supposed to be the crown jewel. But having said that, I just would say that I would definitely go back to Syracuse, even with, and it wouldn't necessarily be for pure basketball reasons per se, although being part of that basketball program, I was part of something larger than myself, which I carry with me to this day, not only with my teammates, but to guys like you all are. the one example of that, and I'm sorry Rosie left, but was when we went back for alumni weekends, and I'd bring my grandsons with me. There was one occasion when we were at the new practice facility and taking the tour. I had been there a number of times, but I bringing my grandsons through. And the next thing I saw my older grandson, Scott, out on the court with Dale. And Dale spent quite a bit of time working with him one-on-one, just as a member of the family, showing him some of the finer points. That really meant a lot to me. On a later occasion, Rosie did the same thing, was showing him how to hold your space. And if you hit somebody with your elbows, boink, too bad for them type of thing. But these were, I felt then, and continue to feel that these were my brothers working with my family. And it meant a lot to me. So being part of something bigger than myself was important. One thing that I think the program is missing is a Bernie Fine. Bernie Fine was the guy who kept us together. Bernie Fine was the guy who sent out, when we had those alumni games and the alumni weekends, he would send it out in November, and it would be hand addressed to attention BF. And he was kind of the glue that in many ways held the program together and retained that loyalty among players past and present. And I wish we had a Bernie Fine now, because I'm seeing that really missing in the program to act as a catalyst to bring us together. But yes, I would. I got a great education in Syracuse University. Strangely enough, a lot of those liberal arts courses, the English major, history minor, philosophy, political science, come back to me now in very strange ways and mean a lot, perhaps more to me now than when I was taking them and just wanted to make sure I retained my eligibility. Yeah, in answer to the question, notwithstanding the fact that I was perhaps the guy that didn't get all of the playing time that he had hoped for when he started the journey, I would definitely go back to Syracuse.
Final note here, and like I said, Erich spoke with us here on Coach B, and I know you talk about it in your book, and definitely it's everydaygod.us that you can check out there for Erich. Dale, I know you have to run here in a second. I want to make sure I get to everybody quickly here. So Dale, your thoughts on Coach Boeheim going into year 46, Coach Boeheim and Coach Fine. Rex gave me a perfect segue to talk about Bernie Fine, who was always good to me when I came back to Syracuse, and I was born and raised here. But when I came back here after working at ESPN down in Orlando, Florida, I was warned, don't talk to Bernie Fine. He doesn't talk to anybody. He's terrible with the media. He gives 3 words. And so I was basically told he's cold. He's not going to give you anything you need, and don't even waste your time. I didn't listen to anybody because I make my own decisions on people face to face, person to person. And Bernie was always good to me. And I know that that's also a part of your life. So what can you tell me about Coach B and Coach Fine?
Well, Coach Boeheim was an assistant my freshman year at Syracuse. And I think him and I bumped heads a few times because, my freshman year coming in at Syracuse and actually, breaking into the starting lineup after the 5th game of the season, they tend to blame everything on the freshman if something goes wrong. So those situations, I was very outspoken about that. I was, the type of person that says, freshmen aren't to blame for every time we make a mistake or every time we lose a ball game. It's all of us together. But all in all, once Coach Boeheim became the head coach at Syracuse, he gave us all the opportunities to prove ourselves. I played all 5 positions at Syracuse, and to my respect and my appreciation of Coach Boeheim, there was guys coming in, at the center position when Roosevelt came in that he gave me an opportunity to play somewhere else. Then we had Louis Orr come in with Roosevelt and that, and Marty Burns graduated. So it gave me a chance to play another position. We lost our guards, Jimmy Williams, Larry Kelly, and it gave me a chance to play in the guard position, which wasn't a normal position for me, but it gave me the opportunity to still play. And I tell all the players that I deal with right now, you don't care where you play, it's as long as you play. And it doesn't matter what position it is, you should know and understand every position on the floor. And I'm very fortunate to be down here in Delray Beach, Florida, where I'm only about 10 minutes from Bernie Fine. So I see Bernie probably 2 or 3 times a week. I talk to him probably every day on different things. Him and I are involved in some coaching and some training with individuals down here and that. And Bernie brought me into the coaching situation here in Florida. He hooked me up with a travel team last summer, which from there, through some friends of his that he knew, he got me a assistant coaching job at Cardinal Gibbons High School. So Bernie has always been there for me. I know he's there for a lot of the other players that he's coached over the years. He still would love to hear from a lot of guys that he's probably reached out to and you haven't reached back out to him. But if you don't have his number, you can always reach me, and I'll put you in contact with Bernie. Bernie's doing fine. He's in great health. He plays tennis every day. He goes out in the afternoons and he trains young athletes to hopefully get the same opportunities that we had to play at a major college level, or at least play at some college level. And some players that he's helping to get to Europe and play. So Bernie's doing well. I can't say enough about Coach Boeheim. His legacy speaks for itself. Every player that's played for him or played with him or that know him and has come across Coach Boeheim knows that he knows the game, he loves the game, and he also will do anything for his players, and he still does. And to Boeheim's credit, every one of us can attest to it. Anytime we want to go to a basketball game that they're letting fans into, Coach Boeheim always provides tickets for us. So I've never had anything bad to say about Coach Boeheim. I always respected him because he gave me the opportunity to compete for playing time and not hamper me from having the experience or improving my basketball skills.
That coming from Dale Shackleford. Final note here, Dennis, your thoughts on Coach B and Coach Fine and what they have meant to the program, what they mean to the alumni.
Okay. Well, I talked to Bernie 2 days ago. 2 days ago, and he told me that he was playing tennis 6 days a week, but I keep in contact with him. I knew Bernie before he was coaching at Syracuse when he was coaching in high school up here in Syracuse. Been a friend and always will be a friend. Obviously, when he went through what he went through, I was kind of in the middle of that somewhat because I was chief of police at the time and running things in Syracuse as far as police department. But that never changed our relationship, although I was accused of a lot of things to help Bernie, which wasn't accurate at all. As far as Boeheim is concerned, Boeheim was my position coach in college. He wasn't my head coach, but he was my position coach. If someone I had to deal with every day relative to, what I was doing on the court and obviously off the court at the time. We had a lot of conversations about Dave and his relationship with Dave and what he did when he was in Syracuse and how he was successful in a lot of different ways. I look at Jim in two different perspectives. Obviously, he wasn't my head coach, so I didn't have that or didn't have a contentious relationship related to his coaching or my playing time or anything like that. So I'm on his board for his foundation, have been since day one. And the reason why I was on it and the reason why I was asked to be on it because of the fact that I was concerned about what he was going to do in that foundation and how it was going to affect the people in the city of Syracuse directly. Had a lot of conversations with him about that. And you know what? He kept his word. He's giving back to those that need it. He's giving back to the portions of the city that I was most interested in, which is the grassroots programs, helping them financially in times where, especially now that they need it. He's using the platform for him being the head coach to do things differently, where a lot of coaches haven't reached that level throughout the country. His coaches for cancer dinners have been exceptional and been a model throughout the country as far as them bringing people together, which is ultimately the fans of Syracuse. We can't forget that. Those same people that participate in those programs are the same people and give generously are the same people that go to the games that we watch and our kids are participating, on Syracuse Orange teams. So I view Jim in a different, different lights. I respect what he's done and how the program has grown the program. I have an ongoing relationship with him now, and we'll continue to have that in the future. I think a lot of what Syracuse basketball is, he has to take credit. He didn't start it, but he's damn sure running it right now. When that ends, it ends. But a lot of what we have now as far as the growth of the program is directly in response to what he's put together. Whether you like it or not, or whether you agree with him or not, or whether you agree with his style of play, 900 plus wins is 900 plus wins. So you can't take away, like I always say, you can't change history. Can't change history, man. It is what it is.
Coming from Dennis. Rex, final point here about Coach Bay, and as well as Coach Fine. What do you think about Coach Bay? I know you mentioned Coach Fine and some things here, and we'll get Brandon's thoughts in a second, but your thoughts on Coach Boeheim overall as he steps into year 46 at the same school, and Bernie Fine a little bit too.
Well, I remember Jim at the very beginning, as I said before, in the September of 1962, when we had our first meeting, and that was actually the first time I met him when we had the first team meeting. He was a walk-on, and I've always been intrigued by the notion that he was a guy who came on then and just never left. I have a former colleague who used to call me. He was a former athlete, but he'd call me about 5 o'clock in the morning if Syracuse lost a game. He was an early riser, and I notoriously was not. And he would call me and say, well, I see your buddy Boeheim choked on another one. And I'd say, hey, all I can tell you is check the W's, check the W's. And, over the years, Jim, I recall him as an athlete, and I think there is some connection. As an athlete, most people who played with him would say Jim was probably not the best pure athlete out there. I don't think he ever dunked the ball, which today at 6'4" would be kind of unheard of. And he wasn't the most fleet of foot. But Jim was the guy who knew and understood the game of basketball, and he was the guy who was about three plays ahead in the right place at the right time. Jim was what I would have called back then a student of the game, which I never truly professed to be. So when I look back at it retrospectively, I'm not surprised that Jim ended up as the coach he is today. I think he is a brilliant basketball mind, often not given credit for it. And while I probably don't understand all of the things that he does, and I watch the game as it's played today, and sometimes I say, where is fundamental basketball here? I don't see anybody doing this, that, or the other thing, and all of that other stuff. Still, I respect Jim as a guy who knows and understands the game, and he's, let's face it, he's in the Basketball Hall of Fame for some reasons, and he's earned his stripes. So I have the greatest respect for him.
Mr. Reese, bring us home here. Coach Fine, you were nodding when you were hearing things about him. We've heard Erich Santifer, we've heard Rex Trobridge, we've heard everybody else on the call today speak on Jim Boeheim. What are your thoughts on Coach B as well as Coach Fine?
I mean, Bernie's the guy who brought me up to Syracuse. Went to high school with Brandon Knight, and again, I wasn't the the first guy getting all the attention and notice, but every time Bernie came down, I'd have 20 and 12, 20 and 10, 20 and 11, 6 threes. It's like, we can't give you a scholarship, but come on up. And like everybody spoke about Bernie. Bernie is the that glue, the guy who did all the extra work to keep that Syracuse nucleus and family together, whether you were in the program or outside the program, all the extra mile stuff to make sure, a program with a legacy like it has, is the reason behind it. It was the backbone there, always supporting and, helping guys out in whatever way he could. And that's why, everybody still supports Bernie. I call him like everybody else. I'm down in South Florida. I'm heading to lunch with Bernie. And yeah, I just advocate more guys, stay in touch with Bern. He's just the great guy. And it's unfortunate with all the news and, the terrible things were said about him, but Bernie's Bernie, and definitely get in touch with him. You're in South Florida. You'd love to link up with all players and, talk ball and talk about old times, because I know he works with a lot of basketball programs in South Florida where I'm from. In terms of Coach Boeheim, I mean, I'd say like Erich, I have my own contentions with Coach Boeheim, especially after I broke his hand in practice one time, I mean, playing time just dipped out completely. And I thought I was going to get just canned from the whole program itself. I thought I was going to be sent on get a bus ticket home after that. But, stay with the program. And, like you said, we all might have our differences of opinions on how, the program could run and how could we coach, but, coach is obviously doing something. He's got ahead of the game on ideas, on things to do and why to do it. I think one of the best things I learned from is, the composure and poise for someone who is getting all this limelight and attention, whether it's good or bad, constantly. We're all looking under with a magnifying glass. I really learned a valuable lesson of, composure and poise when you're in front of the light, when you're doing certain things, just to hold yourself in a certain demeanor and, keep your chin up in those ways, as much as, we had our beefs, I, definitely took some valuable lessons. And like everybody said here, you don't get 900 wins and build a program like this on nothing. He has an edge. He knows what he's doing. And, I'm just happy I got to play under him and learn under his tutelage.
Broke his hand in practice.
Dislocated it. He still has to apparently have a rod in his hand. Like, had to have surgery, like on his ring finger on the left hand too. So he couldn't wear it. So, Julie Boeheim came to practice like 1 or 2 days later. I'm like, I went to her to see if I was still in the program, if I was going to be sent home after that. Like, am I good? Like, I know I'm on scholarship too. Like, am I going to lose that? Like, what's going to happen here? And it's like, no, Brandon, you're fine. Just, you say if I didn't love this kid because he can bust his ass and practice every day and do all these things that he doesn't practice, I would have sent him home, immediately after it happened. So I was like, okay, I'm here for a reason. I'm going to keep going. And just have a good bar story for the rest of my life with that one.
Yeah, for sure. So for Rex Trobridge, as well as Brandon Reese, Erich Santifer, and a big thanks to Dale Shackleford, as well as Roosevelt Bouie Jr., Sonny Spera, Gene Waldron, Jimmy Lee, and Dennis DuVal. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. I tried to make sure we got to everybody and balanced out as best we could here with all of you coming on the screen, but thank you so much for doing this and for bringing some positivity and reminding that we don't all have to agree with each other, but this is one big family and there's a lot more to be had here than just negative opinions that won't really take you anywhere. So thank you guys for that. I appreciate it.
No, Dan, thank you for having me. It was great to talk with you again and talking to the crew.
All right. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Bye.
Take care.
Take care.
Appreciate it.